Okay, so I'm just going to talk more about the kid situation and having kids. There's a bunch of videos online about just people having less kids. And I saw a Matt Walsh video. He was basically, saying that your purpose is to have kids, and anyone that doesn't want kids is kind of weak. And that he had kids when he didn't have anything and he just figured it out. And I think that was the majority of people in previous generations. They had kids and they just figured it out. I mean, that was kind of the expectation. Maybe they didn't already own a house, maybe they didn't have like a great job, and maybe they had some debt and things weren't, rosy, but they still just decided to have kids. So, people today, I think, because of the internet, there's so much information out there, and people can see what other people are going through. So I think it's just people kind of being smart and deciding, you know what, if I'm not in an ideal situation, like if I don't already have a home and I don't have a stable job and I don't have good purchasing power and I don't have a good partner and I don't live in a place where I feel like I could support a kid like in a good environment, then they just don't do it. They delay doing it, right? Whereas before, people got together at a relatively young age, in their young 20s, or even like while they were still in high school or college, they would get together and have kids. And one income was, typically enough to afford just the basics of life. Nothing fancy, but a basic house, space for your family to grow for like 2 kids, 2 to 3 kids maybe, and maybe even more kids. A couple generations ago, it was pretty common to have 3, 4, 5+ kids, and it's a lot less common now. So I think the internet's the main reason for that. People are delaying doing that. They want to travel and maybe pursue their career more, or maybe just do things on their own while they're still young, and explore their hobbies, or maybe date different people. Feminism has certainly played a role in it. Women are not reliant on men anymore. So in the past, women had to kind of pair up with a guy in order to have some security at a younger age, because she couldn't really earn an income and support herself. That wasn't what most women were doing. But now women do have the option to not look for a relationship. They can go into a career, or they can go into an occupation or a job and support themselves. So they don't have the pressure of just being a wife or being a mother. So I think the people that are left are the ones they actually really want to have kids. So that's a good thing in my opinion. That is a good thing. Obviously the financial stresses and the financial obligations of having a kid. I wasn't, around 30, 40, 50 years ago, like in the age of trying to have kids. So I'm sure it wasn't easy back then. Like, I'm not trying to say it was ever easy, but in today's world, housing prices, just normal inflation, insurance prices, just the cost of living, even if you don't have kids, is pretty high. So people are making I think a calculated decision on, is this really the best thing for me to have a kid? And I think a lot of people just say no. And I think more people are actually not even in a position to where they could have a kid, because again, there's less people, I think, dating. Women do not need men anymore, so women are going to be selective, right? Women are going to be very selective in a world where they do not need men. That means that women are going to really only want to date guys that they want to date. And again, juxtapose that in the past, because women basically had to settle down with a guy because they couldn't work and just earn their own money. So now you have women that are, in their 20s, going into their 30s, and even older, who, unless they really like a guy and they're getting something probably out of him, like he makes more money or he's this successful guy and I'm really attracted to him, they don't have to be with that guy. They don't have to have kids. They don't have to be a mother. They can do their own thing. And a lot of them are choosing to do that. So that leaves the people that only really want to be parents or mothers to go that route. And as a result, you just have less kids. And it's not like it's affordable. It really is not affordable. Again, you're going to have to make sacrifices if you're going to be a parent. You have to pay for daycare, or you have to stop working, or you have to work less because you have to actually take care of your kid. So if you stop working, you're not making any income. And if you have a kid, maybe you can still work, but then you're having to pay daycare. And obviously you have another mouth to feed. There's more time that you're going to have to put towards your kid and not towards your job or not towards whatever you want to do. So that's always been true, but in a world where both parents have to work because they can't make enough money, then people are really going to strongly consider not having kids. So it's not surprising. It's just human nature. If you make it pretty easy for people to have kids, they'll have kids. But if you make it more difficult, like housing is a big thing. If you don't own a home and you don't have a stable place to live and your income is kind of average and you're kind of like paycheck to paycheck and you have some credit card debt and you have some student loan debt and you're not really certain on how you're going to really make more money in the next 3 to 5 years, why would you have a kid? Seriously, I mean, it's a really good question. If you're 26 years old or 28 years old or 30 years old and you don't have a house, you don't have a great relationship with someone of the opposite sex, why would that person have a kid? So things have to really line up now. Like I said, because of feminism, women do not need to be with men. And again, men don't need to be with women either, but women can be incredibly selective because if they don't find a partner that they really like, they can just go work. They can go the corporate route, or they can compete with men in the workforce and earn their own money and buy their own or rent their own apartment. They can live a single life. They can travel. They can do whatever the hell they want. That really wasn't an option in the past, So people are doing that. Yes, they're being more selfish. I think people of 2 to 3 generations ago were a lot less selfish. They were family oriented, but that was because men and women really needed each other 2 to 3 generations ago, because women couldn't really work on their own. They couldn't earn a respectable income on their own, or at least most women couldn't. So now that men and women don't need each other, they're really only deciding to be together if it's like a really, really good match. Otherwise, the woman will just say, all these guys are not up to my criteria, and I'm just going to be alone. And I don't want kids. I want to focus on making my own money and doing my own things and not relying on a guy. And I think a lot of men, let's just be honest, I think men are programmed to be like providers, and they certainly want to support a woman, but if women aren't really wanting to pair up with guys, or at least most guys, then a lot of those guys just don't work as hard. They don't work as hard. They're not driven because they don't have a family. They're kind of like directionless. They don't have a purpose, a lot of these guys. So they kind of resort to doing the bare minimum. They're like, you know what? I'm only concerned about me. I don't have a family. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I don't have anyone to provide for. I don't want to work for the company and just, put in a bunch of time into the company because I don't have anyone to support. So a lot of guys, I think, are not working as hard, and they're having to compete with women in the workforce. So there's just more people in the workforce. And it's true, right? Married guys or guys that have children are going to work harder, just because they have to support a family. I see that in my own life. It's totally true. When you have a family, when you have expenses, when maybe you own a house and you have mouths to feed, you're going to statistically take your life more seriously, or you're going to work harder because you have people that you have to support. If you're a single guy, no girlfriend, no wife, no kids, none of that, a lot of those guys will just work they're either work not as hard or they will work less because they don't have anyone to support. It's just them. So that's my opinion on it. I think the internet has just made information so much more available, and in my opinion, it's become more expensive. You know, housing is a big reason for that. If you can't really get into a housing situation that's stable and affordable, people aren't going to do it, and they're just not dating as much, right? That's what I said about feminism and women. And again, that's just the way it is, right? Women can be a lot more selective than they used to be. They used to really need to find a guy at a young age. Otherwise, they weren't going to have stability. But now they don't need that. So I think you're going to have less kids and less relationships, less marriages when women obviously have more options, because they're only going to get into a relationship with someone that they want to. A couple generations ago, a lot of people got married or had kids that probably wasn't a good match, but there was a lot of pressure for the woman to find a man and for them to start a life together, because women could just not be independent. They could not go work their own job and buy their own apartment or rent their own apartment and pay for their own expenses. They couldn't do that, and now they can. So that's my opinion. Until things become just more affordable, I think there's going to be less kids in general and less relationships. But women have to really want to have kids, or else they're not, they're not going to. If they go the route of career and wanting to just earn their own money, they're the ones that have to have the kids. So if they don't really want to have kids, or they want to do something else, then you're just going to have less kids. It's just the way it is. It's just math. It works out that way. You're not starting to have kids at 21 years old. They're starting to maybe have kids, if they do want to have kids, at 30 or 32. And when that's the reality, you're just going to have less kids. So let me know what you think. Subscribe if you want. See you on the next one. Take care.